Every man has his heroes, and every life is made up of stories. Heroic Stories is a series from heroicmen.org to find out why some men choose the harder path in life, even when it means losing everything, how they survived, and who they are today. These men seem heroic to us, even if they don't call themselves that. They seem to have an extra strength in their system, extra grit to battle doubt and find purpose. All of these men are seeking divine friendship with God, and they all believe in building up faith, building up men, and building up our future. Sponsored by CatholicSpeakers.com and hosted by Dominic from Heroic Men, get the mindsets, the scars, and the playbooks that these men have earned the hard way. Heroism isn't born, it's made, and these are their stories. Hi friends, and welcome to Heroic Stories. I'm fortunate today to be joined by Tom Hornacek. Hi Tom, it's good to have you with us.
Hi Dominic, nice to meet with you.
Where are you in the country, Tom? You've been involved with us for a while. You're quite involved with our leadership coaches. Where in the country are you?
I live in East Tawas, Michigan, which is the northern lower peninsula in the Gaylord Diocese.
Okay, wow. I want to ask you about heroism and all the normal stuff we ask people, but I first would like to ask, since you're especially wearing a Heroic Men shirt, how did you hear about Heroic Men and then get involved?
I think I probably heard about Heroic Men the first time on Ave Maria Radio.
Okay.
Which I do work for. And I've been involved in men's ministry for a number of years. I know when I first got involved, it changed my life. And I know that if we don't change men, we don't change the culture and we don't change society. And so I think the work that Heroic Men does to help men set up a men's conference, start small groups in their parish, and all the contents that's available, I just think it's just a great gift. And all the time, when I meet men, that's how I can share and just say, hey, instead of going to social media, go on your Heroic Men app and watch a couple of videos, and it'll inspire you to be something greater than yourself.
Amazing. What are you involved in? We'll get to more of your story, but as it relates to using Heroic Men stuff and so on, are you running your own ministries or do you coordinate a network of them?
I have a men's group in our parish. I've run a conference out of our parish before. I've been involved in the Saginaw Diocese doing their conference for a number of years. And I do community outreach for Ave Maria Radio. And so with that, if there's a men's conference going on in any of the dioceses we're in, I'm there. And they also allow me to not only have our Ave Maria Radio app information and stuff, but also Heroic Men. And so if we do bags for the conference, we have Heroic Men stuff in there along with our own materials. And so I've been involved in that. Currently, our parish has an evangelization team. It's the first time we've had one ever. And so I'm trying to create some change there. And I just know that if we don't have any impact on men, we don't change society, because most men don't realize they wake up in battle every day, the world, the flesh, and the devil. Mm-hmm. And until they do and start to develop a prayer life, nothing changes. It didn't in my life.
Now I've got to ask you about that. So let's get into some of your story now that we have a sense of what you're involved in. Sounds like a lot of fingers and a lot of cookie jars.
Yes.
But so, yeah, tell us about that moment. You said prayer was a moment that started changing things for you.
Well, I'll have to go back 25 years ago. I was married to my high school sweetheart. We'd been married 27 years. We had 2 daughters. You know, life was good. My oldest daughter, Mindy, was born deaf, so that kind of put a crink in our perfect plan. But we got very involved in her education so she could lip read and speak and sign. And I was in the grocery business with my brother. Family business. Had been in it since I was 5 years old. Life was good. I came into the Catholic Church when my wife and I got married. I'd been going to Mass with her, and I was Methodist. My parents didn't care if I became Catholic. They just wanted me going to church. Okay. So I came into the church the night before we got married, and I was sacramentalized, but I wasn't catechized. Mm-hmm. And so I think I'm a good Catholic. And, you know, really to quite clearly, from the time I first came into the church, I hadn't been to confession in 27 years. Because, you know, me and Jesus were buds. Mm-hmm. It was never talked about at Mass. I can just tell him I'm sorry and I'll do better next time. Didn't pray much unless I needed some. Certainly didn't pray the rosary. That's just for older ladies or the chaplet. I didn't know the 10 Commandments.
Sure.
Well, I thought I was a good Catholic. Oh, and, you know, let's just mix in a little pornography. There's nothing wrong with that. It just gets the motor running, you know. Mm-hmm. Now, I thought I was a good Catholic. And from a lot of the standards from the men that I knew in my parish, I was just like them.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, I was Revelation chapter 3, verse 15. You are neither cold nor hot. How I wish you were cold or hot, but because you are lukewarm, I will vomit you out of my mouth. I was on the highway to hell drinking the cocktail of life that I mixed, and I thought I was a good Catholic. Well, my brother had a barbecue at his house, and this is 25 years ago. And of course, we had a lot of beer, and it was a great time. It was for all of our managers at the store and our businesses. Well, the next morning, we had 8 a.m. Mass at my parish, St. Anne's Church in Linwood, Michigan. It was for my father-in-law who had died of cancer the year before. So we get up early to get to Mass for 8 o'clock, walk into the church, and I do not feel good. I am hungover and did not feel good. Self-inflicted. We get in, I get on the kneeler, and then it began. My heart started to race. I got really hot. My heart's just pounding. And then in my head, I started hearing, Tom, why do you feel like that? You don't need to feel like that. Just get up and walk out. Just get up and walk out. Why do you feel like that? Now, I heard this over and over and over, Dominic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got to tell you, for the first time in my life, I started praying. You know why? Because if I get up and walk out, the whole family says, what happened to Tom? Oh, he had too much to drink last night. The only thing that kept me in that pew was my pride.
Mm-hmm.
But I prayed and I prayed. And a couple times I felt like I was going to black out, and I got through it. Well, I was so embarrassed. I wasn't going to tell my wife. I'll never do that again. That was so stupid. Well, the next weekend we go to Mass. Nothing to drink the night before or that day, nothing. Got on the kneeler and it started again.
Really?
Heart started racing, felt really hot, and the voices.
Were you unnerved during that week thinking about the next Mass, wondering if it would happen again?
No, I thought it wouldn't happen again because it was just that one time because I was so stupid. Okay. I didn't know who was even speaking to me. Right, I just thought that was my conscience, talking to me that, boy, you were a real idiot. So I wasn't worried about it.
Okay.
So we go to Mass the next week, and it happens again.
Wow.
Now, at this point, again, I prayed, oh, Lord, just get me through Mass. Please just get me through Mass. Now, at this point, that's when the whole panic attack thing was coming out. And so I'm like, oh, I got this. It's a panic attack. I'm a man. I got this. I can get through this. Well, week after week.
Are you serious? Wow.
I'm not kidding you. And about 4 weeks in, I was the confirmation sponsor for my nephew. Suit and tie, right up in the front of the church. And this time, he threw it all at me. My heart was racing. I felt like I was 110 degrees, and I was going to black out. And in my head, I didn't voice it, but in my head, I simply said, Lord Jesus Christ, you free me from this affliction, and I will serve you forever. I got hit with a cold blast of Arctic air from the top of my head to my feet. I was literally chilled, and it was gone. And he revealed to me who had been speaking to me, the enemy, and I was freed for the first time in my life. Well, I told my wife then. I told her what had happened, and they needed Eucharistic ministers. I volunteered us both. Well, she didn't want to. She did. I knew she could do it, but she just didn't want to take the effort. And once she did, she loved it. But she went to our parish priest and she said, if Tom volunteers me for anything, you got to talk to me because he's on fire right now. So they needed lectors. I became a lector. Then they needed somebody on the RCIA team. Sister Jean came to me and I said, Sister Jean, I don't know anything. She says, don't worry. We need a man on the team. We'll teach you. So here I'm going to RCIA every week. And it wasn't just the fall through the spring. It was all year. And I'm learning. Well, in the midst of all this, I tune in my favorite sports talk radio station in Saginaw, 1440 AM, just catch up on the Tiger junk, Detroit Tigers stuff. And all of a sudden, it's Ave Maria Catholic Radio. And I'm like, Catholic radio? What's this? I didn't even know it existed. Dominic, I couldn't listen to anything. It's like every time I tuned in, I learned all these things. I had no clue. I had no clue. Now, I'm not telling any guy I'm listening to Catholic radio. No way. Right, but I couldn't listen to anything else.
You're still working at the grocery store, the family thing at this time? Okay.
Yeah, we had a grocery store, hardware outlet store, and all this is going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden, all these things are open up to me. I had no clue about my Catholic faith. So all of these things are going on. And this is over a period of a couple of years.
So I got to ask, before we go any further, that moment when you said that flush of cold air, cold chill goes from top to bottom, and then you feel freedom from that situation, that oppression, that whatever that was going on. What did you think was happening? Or how were you making sense of it?
When it happened, after it happened, I knew exactly who saved me because I asked him to. And I knew exactly who was speaking to me and using that affliction over and over. Because, see, we have to allow that opportunity for the enemy to get a little foothold in us. And, of course, in that case, it was the alcohol and looking at a little pornography and all this other junk. All I can say is when I got that freedom and was chilled and the heart racing, everything was gone. I just feel like Lord revealed to me at that point who was speaking to me. And I knew that I had to change a lot of things that I was doing.
That's incredible. I mean, talk about a dramatic situation. And like you're saying, it didn't sort of phase out and ease off. It was pretty instant. So
yes.
What did that make you think about the last couple of weeks and what's been going on? Why do you think it just came on so sudden? Like you said, the last 4 weeks, and it was so intense. You get in that pew. What were you thinking?
Well, I
what was
think
going through
because
your
the
mind?
Lord was pushing me to make a statement of faith to him. Because I believe he has a plan for each of our lives, and it sometimes involves suffering and it sometimes involves things that we don't want to face. And I just want to reflect on, this is something St. Padre Pio had said. The life of a Christian is nothing but a perpetual struggle against self. There is no flowering of the soul to the beauty of its perfection, except at the price of pain. We don't want it. We don't ask for it. But, Jesus told St. Faustina in her diary over 50 times, I reward suffering. I reward suffering. And I know in my life, everything has happened. I had a number of things happened after that placed me where I am today. He knew what it was going to take in my life to turn to him and to serve him and fulfill what his plan was for my life, which is so much better than what mine would have been.
Yeah.
And eternal life. So yes,
So how do you make sense of that phrase right there, right? And here's where I'm coming from with this question.
Yeah.
Suffering of, it's something we don't know what to do with. It's obviously painful. It's a very difficult concept, perhaps to square with maybe a good God, right? Especially if now, as you've said, you've now been through a whole lot of intentional catechesis and RCIA. You're trying to understand how the pieces fit together, whereas most of the rest of us on the other side of the pew or on the other side of the, outside the church doors, we're not taking that time to go deeper into how life works and how all these things hang together. And all we know is that suffering is bad. Suffering leads to the dark side, right? How do you make sense of that? And maybe how would you define the word suffering? Because I think the general understanding is that it's meaningless, pointless agony and sort of pain. It sounds like you don't have that view.
Well, I can say that now because it's been 20 years since then, actually 22 years since then. But if I could, let me just show you the next step in what the Lord did, because it might explain that in a little better fashion. Because I always look at, even at my age and the journey I've been on, there's so much more to learn. I wake up every day and I can't wait to learn something else because there is just no exchange for wisdom. So all this is going on. All of a sudden, I'm a Eucharistic minister, I'm a lector, I'm the RCA team, I'm listening to Catholic radio. I'm starting to put the pieces together and understanding. Now, I wasn't completely there yet. And I think as men, it just takes longer because especially getting over obstacles and things that we put in our lives. But all this is going on. And both of my daughters were in college. My oldest daughter was deaf. She was going to graduate, which we weren't even sure she could graduate from college, but she was. And she was getting married the next spring. So it was 22 years ago, August 16th. And we were going to have a little barbecue at our house. And I was having my mom and dad and my wife's mom over. Anyway, I really pushed my wife to have my brother and sister-in-law come over because they were home alone. And she really didn't want them. And I don't know why, but I really insisted they come. So they did. Well, I was out barbecuing, and when I brought the food in, put on the table, my wife came in carrying a plate, and we're all at the table together. My parents, her mom, my brother and sister-in-law, and my wife collapsed in full cardiac arrest.
Really?
And she had perfect health. She had no health problems, cholesterol, nothing. Well, my brother and sister-in-law that I insisted on being there, not knowing why, were both trained EMTs. And they started CPR. She came back around right away, got to the hospital. It wasn't until the next morning because there was no cardiologist on staff. So she had a very difficult night. They did an emergency catheterization. She had something that's called cardiovasospasm, and it's when an artery on the heart just clenches shut. She had no cholesterol, no blockages in any arteries. Cardiovasospasm can happen anywhere in the body, but it just clenches shut. They still really don't know why it happens. Wow. So they put in a stent, and she made it. And he said we almost lost her when we were doing the catheterization. So she didn't get to the hospital for a week, and I didn't leave her side. I had him bring my work up there. I wasn't leaving her side. She comes home, and the first couple of weeks I'm going back to work, and somebody would stay with her, but she was fine. Cardiologists even said the damage that was done to her heart should heal, and she'd be okay. Well, it was about 3.5 weeks into it when she fell and had the heart attack. She fractured her tailbone. She was having trouble sleeping. So I said, hey, why don't you call the doctor and see if you go to the chiropractor. Maybe you're just out of alignment. So I was at a business meeting for our store out of town, and then I called home. And my dad answered. And I thought, oh, I just got the wrong number. I said, oh, Dad, I'm sorry. He said, no, Tom, there's something wrong with Karen. He said, the ambulance is picking her up. Had to be medical. Well, later I found out, I'm like, how did they know? My mom was prompted repeatedly to call Karen. And she called her, and she was talking to her, and she stopped talking. And so they went out to the house, and she was sitting in the chair and simply passed out, and they couldn't wake her up. She had the beginning of a brain aneurysm.
Oh, no.
So they took her to the hospital. I got there. And when I got there, I knew it was really bad. And it was a great Christian physician in the ER, and he showed me she had a massive leak. But that night, they did emergency surgery. He told us that, the chances were really low, but it was worth the effort. And so while she was in surgery, we're all praying in the waiting room. And at one point, my mom and my daughter, Sarah, and myself came together, the three of us, and all three of us said, wow, something good just happened. I mean, we all felt it. Us three felt it. Something good. We were very encouraged. Well, then afterwards, it was like, we have to leave her alone. It has to be very quiet. The next few hours are very crucial. Well, after that time passed, there were no brain activity. The machines were keeping her alive.
Oh, wow.
And so we were waiting. My daughters and I decided to talk to Gift of Life. Our parish priest was there. He had given her last rites before she went into surgery. And I was praying at her bedside. And I had this pain in my heart that I couldn't describe. It wasn't a heart attack, and I didn't ask for help, but it was the most excruciating thing that I've ever had in my life. And I found out what it was 10 years later on Good Friday. I was praying, and the Lord said, I pierced your heart, Tom, the sword of sorrow. But Dominic, that equipped me for everything that took place after that. Her funeral, everything.
Oh, you lost her. I'm so sorry.
Yes. So we gave to Gift of Life and skin and corneas and things. My daughters knew that she would want to do that. We had the funeral, and my daughters were still home, and it was a few days after the funeral, and we got this book from the Gift of Life, and it's called The Next Place. And it's simply beautiful artwork, and it's really about heaven, but it couldn't say heaven because it couldn't be religious.
Sure.
So we would stay up at night looking at pictures and reminiscing, and I went to bed, and it was about 1:30 in the morning, and I grabbed that book. And I got in bed, and I started to look at the book, and I don't know, got about a third of the way in, and I look at this page, and it's got little red hearts running through the blue clouds, and it said, though I will know the joy of solitude, I will never be alone. And the minute I read the last word, those little hearts started lighting the room up, like a heart beating with light. I mean, a light, an eternal light I could not describe. Now, at this point, you're not really experiencing this, Tom. You haven't slept, you haven't eaten, you're not in your right mind. So I shut the book. I went out and I got my younger daughter, Sarah. She says, what's going on? I says, come here a minute. I said, come in. We went in. I got in bed. I handed her the book. I said, tell me what you see. She opened it up. We both saw it.
Oh, wow.
Then my oldest daughter, Mindy, we went and got her. She came in. We all three saw it. Dominic, we went around the house. We turned every light off. It lit the whole house up. And I told my daughters, why did God do this for us? People lose people all the time, and they don't even get a sign. Why did he do this for us? Now, it didn't have the same impact on them it did on me.
What were they thinking it was, or what were they making sense of it, as opposed to what you were?
They knew that God had given us this gift, but they were still dealing with the loss of their mom. And so the next morning I get up and I'm like, is this real? Did it really happen?
Sure.
And so I call Gift of Life and I talked to the lady who we had dealt with. And she said, Tom, I've never heard a story like yours, but I hear a lot of death stories and I absolutely believe everything you saw.
Amazing.
But I thought, well, in this book, maybe it's those dots, that you can look and you can see an image in. So I called the illustrator for the book.
Oh, wow,
I got a hold of it.
Okay.
And they said, no, there's nothing in there. Now, at that time, our business was about 15 minutes away. And every morning when I drove to work, I would cry all the way to work and be strong all day. And then on the way home, I'd cry all the way home. Well, about a month later, I was having a bad day. And I took the book out, and it was still light out. And I went out in our family room, and I opened it up, and it happened again.
Wow, really?
And I never opened the book again.
Okay.
I just never opened it again. Why God allowed me that grace, I don't know. But so at that point, I'm like, what do you want, Lord? Do you want me to be a priest? What do you want? I really didn't know. And I got to tell you, and I tell men this all the time, don't wait until the Lord cleans the slate. When you wake up and roll over and there's nobody there, it's just you and Jesus, don't wait for that point. Love the person you're with, your wife, your family, and serve them. Don't wait. Because I think the Lord knew what it was going to take for me to become who he wanted me to be.
Really?
That's where we talked about suffering. We don't want it. We don't ask for it. But I know now that I can get through it. And he suffered a great deal more for us to save us. And I want to save as many people as I can. I want to take as many people with me as I can. And people don't have a prayer life because I didn't. They don't even know. I didn't know the 10 Commandments. And until you start a prayer life, nothing changes. So at that point, Dominic, I'm like, okay, Lord, what do you want? Well, then I realized, okay, Tom, you got to start serving people. So I was involved in a lot of organizations, and our high school was right behind our grocery store in Pinconning, Michigan. And they had failed 14 bond proposals. They had all kinds of fire code problems. They needed money for complete renovation, couldn't pass a bond. So I started going to those meetings. Well, at the meeting, there was a lady there, and she was a secretary at the elementary that I did junior achievement in, and she was the high school volleyball coach. She had a daughter in the school. Anyway, she was going to those meetings too. Well, her story was, Marion, that her husband owned a big business in town. They had 2 children. Her 2-year-old son was diagnosed with cancer, and a few months later, he passed. And during that whole time, her husband had been having an affair. And after he passed, and they buried him, he cleaned out their accounts.
Oh, wow.
And left. And so she hadn't dated anybody for 6 years. Well, after one of the meetings one night, she stood outside my car window and we talked for like over an hour. She's telling me all about her son, Jared, and I'm telling her all about my wife, Karen. And they grew up in the farming community, so they knew each other.
Oh, wow.
And that night, Dominic, it was like, what are you doing, Lord? So I went to my parish priest later. I'm like, Father Tom, I feel bad, but I feel good. I don't know how to deal with this. I think I'm falling in love with somebody. And my wife, it's only been a few months since she passed. And he just said, well, Tom, your marriage must have been so good that you just want to love and care for somebody in the covenant of marriage again. Wow. So at this point, it hadn't even been a year, Dominic.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to grasp all that. Well, my parents had a place in Florida, and my dad had myasthenia gravis, and it was beginning to progress. And so I said, hey, why don't I drive down your van? You guys fly down, I'll open your place up, pick you up, and then I'll fly back and do the same thing in the spring. So I do that. I get down there, and I knew I could always talk to my mom. Well, my dad went to bed, had his hearing aids out, and I said, Mom, I got something to talk to you about. What? And I said, I don't know how to say this. Just Tom, you can talk to me about anything. I said, Mom, I said, I think I'm in love with Marianne Lefebvre. My mom goes, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. You don't know the weight you just lifted. I'm like, what? Now, Marianne only lived 4 houses down from them.
Can I ask how old you were at this time?
I was 47. So I said, Mom, what do you mean? She said, Tom, all the way home from Karen's funeral, I had my eyes closed and I was praying, Lord, what's Tom going to do now? What's Tom going to do now? What's Tom going to do now? And she said, Tom, when we turned the corner, I looked up at Marianne Lefebvre's house, and he very clearly said, he will marry her.
And she'd been sitting on that for what, 6 months?
What? And she said, yeah, I didn't tell anybody because she says, I couldn't believe what I heard. And she said, you just lifted that weight. And I said, I don't think she's got a chance then. Oh, she says, well, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, I just like another revelation. I just can't believe that we have such a good Father. And the more we trust him, and the more we turn to him in sorrow and grief and in joy, and just follow him. So Marianne and I ended up getting married. We've been married now 20 years. And from all of that, Dominic, and then I became the president of Beggar Catholic Radio. I served there for 6 years. I didn't know what I was doing, but I hired 2 consultants. We were able to turn it around. Then I went to Ave Maria Radio. I volunteered to do their pledge drives 2-3 times a year. I do mission work with Renewal Ministries. I volunteer with Heroic Men, men's conferences and men's ministry in the parish. And I can't imagine what my life would have been like if I wouldn't have endured the things that I did, but turned to Jesus. After he freed me, it changed everything. And that's available to anybody. And all the things that are afflicting us, my wife and I are also praying in Unbound Prayer by Neil Lozano, that model, the 5 keys.
Okay.
And we've prayed with people in cell blocks in the island of St. Lucia. And it's a roller coaster ride once you go and do whatever he wants you to do, but it will be the time of your life. And all I can say is this, heaven is real. And every pinprick of heavenly light that my daughters and I experienced, your very best day on earth, the day you get married, the day your first child is born, the day the doctor says you're cancer-free, heaven is a million times better. I would sell everything right now and go if I could. I just know that. Yeah. When you know it because you know it. And so anyway, I'm just a sinner among sinners, but I'm trying to get better every day. And that's all we can do.
Gosh, Tom, thank you I'm kind of reeling a little bit. I'm sure maybe some of our listeners are too, but it's funny. There's a, what do you call it? Bunch of things connecting for me. I've been on a rash of listening to near-death experience stories over the last couple of weeks. They're not only very heartening, some of them very challenging, but they affirm everything that you're talking about. And I think it should not surprise us as Christians. I think especially as Christians, that these kinds of stories like this, they should not be so unusual that they floor us. Right. I suspect they're a lot more, especially today, because we've gotten so much better at medicine and science and stuff. But I think throughout the Christian story have been there, but we just haven't know what to do with them. We haven't taken them as seriously. I think we do absolutely need to.
Yes. And we don't see the miracles and healing here that we do in other countries like Africa because of the depth of their faith. And I've been to Africa. Well, one time, I'm going again next month.
Oh, wow.
And I've been to Papua New Guinea last year on a mission trip with Renewal Ministries. And they see miracles because of the depth of their faith and trust. And if we trusted and had more faith, we'd see more miracles. But you're absolutely right. And it's from Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, as far as myself. And when you get to that point, it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Mm-hmm. And I pray every day, Dominic, to listen better. I'm getting better, but I got a long way to go. Mm-hmm. The more we can listen to the promptings of the Spirit, that thought we didn't have, that whisper, I'm getting better at it, And when I do, the things he does are incredible. And, it's like the thought I should call John. When you get a second time, you better act on it. And then you call John and you find out there's something going on, But it's those little promptings, and they're all good things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the more we understand that, the easier life gets. And the other thing, whenever I do a talk on my story of deliverance is a good word and heaven is real, I like to end with Luke chapter 12, verse 49. I've come to set the earth on fire. Oh, I wish it were already blazing. Be the spark that ignites the blaze. Mm-hmm. And you could do it just by praying with somebody, asking for prayers. At the restaurant this morning from the men's group, all the waitresses at Big Boy know, when they bring our food, we're going to say, what do you need prayers for? And this morning, another waitress came over and said, Tom, I need prayers for my sister. She thinks she might have bone cancer. And the waitress came up. And I've had some instances where we prayed at the meal and prayed for that, and then they got a phone call. So now they'll bring us a list of their prayer requests. So there's a lot of very simple things we can do. I learned that in Encounter Ministry School. As you know, Dean, I was a graduate. I also was a graduate. That changed my life. And as far as praying with people and just being fearless in his love, that's the other thing I pray for. It's not rocket science. And I know if somebody's listening right now, God is calling you to something. It's not that hard. Just cross the chicken line and be a fool for him. Sometimes you'll get a thought to share something with somebody, even in a prayer, and you think, well, that was weird. And then later the person says, I don't know how you said that. It's because just trust in what the Spirit brings you. Because when people don't want to pray with somebody, it's because they don't trust that God is going to be such a good Father, he will bring you what you need to know. So anyway, I'm a simple man, but having been in the grocery business all my life, it's even like with the radio station, a lot of our materials at Ave Maria, like the work you do, your graphic work is phenomenal, by the way. It's creating an encounter with the risen Lord. What's going to make them pick this up, look at it, open it, read it, make them create a change? And in our men's group this morning, we were watching the Father Larry series.
Oh, really?
Oh, the guys love it. We've got 2 more to go. And they love him and what he's doing. And I've got them to all put the app on their phone. And so it's just simple things. Somebody's already figured it out. You don't have to recreate the wheel. But at the restaurant, I always leave a note, and like the little Jesus, or I'll leave prayer cards. And I'll tell you, the response to that is phenomenal. I call it practical evangelization. There's lots of little things you can do that will affect people in a way you can't imagine. So,
I'm curious where you'd go with this. I saw a definition of that one line where God says, if you had faith the size of a mustard seed, right, you could move mountains and all of this. But the definition of that was not just that faith was such a tiny little seed. And it wasn't just that if you only had such a small amount. The person making the comment was saying that the reference, the context that people of the time would have understood is that apparently mustard, it grows rank and wild and fast like a weed, and it gets into everything and it's impossible to control or something. And that take on what Christ was saying is that if you had just this tiny little thing, tiny little act or moment of faith, it's going to run wild and get into everything, and it sort of, in a good way, infects and gets into all of your ideas, and it gets all throughout your soul and all throughout your decisions and your ideas. Just that sense of faith. Sounds like that's sprouted in you. It sounds like that's taken hold.
It has, and I also understand intercessory prayer at a level I never did.
Ooh, say more.
God answers every prayer. Of course, it may be yes, it may be not yet, or it may be I have something different. But he always answers it. And I know I've just seen some things recently, Dominic, that I had given up hope on this happening. And so you kind of like back off on your prayer for that. And all of a sudden, the God just does something. But I did involve a lot of work and suffering in between to try to help this person. And I kind of thought it was lost, and it wasn't. He used it.
Really?
And then it happened. And now, but we have to make sure too, when he does things, that we thank him and continue to thank him every day. He'll bring you more. I'm not today, but I could go into a story. I stepped back as president of Barry Catholic Radio, and I didn't really intend to at the time. But when I did, and it involved a lot of suffering, I thought that's what I was going to do the rest of my life. He brought me a fishing boat. That's a whole other story. And he did. Okay. When I tell you the scenario of events, it's just unbelievable. He gives us good gifts every day. But do we recognize it? Do we just thank him for it? Every day I wake up because I want to just see what he's doing. One of the guys I went on a mission trip with, John Kazanjian, he says, Tom, I just want to be wherever God is, and I want to lean into it. And amen to that, because I was on my second mission trip with him, and part of it was in the island of St. Lucia, and we'd go into the cell blocks in the only prison on the island, on the Borderless prison. And this is how good a father we have. So this is only my second trip, and we go into the cell blocks, and we would invite prisoners down to one end of the table, and we'd do a talk. And then whoever came to the talk, they'd put their name down, and the next day the guard would bring them a plastic rosary, a prayer book, and some stuff. Well, anyway, the night before we're going to go in, the first night, I heard the Spirit say, you're going to walk through that gate, and John's going to say, you're leading today, Tom. Thank you, Jesus. I got out my New Testament, my small one. I started marking scripture verses. We walked through that door. John turned to me and said, Tom, you're going to lead today. Now, if I would have been prepared, that would have been tough. But he prepared me. We have such a good father. And when you step out in faith on a mission trip, I'm not equipped to go on a mission trip, but he gives you everything you need. Just because you said yes and you prepare and pray for people there and love them there, you'll see things happen you can't imagine. Just, I have. And so I just urge men, start a prayer life. Learn the 10 Commandments. I know it sounds simple, but I didn't know them. And then just start a prayer life. And then as it increases, don't you feel like, Dominic, sometimes when you don't continue your normal prayer routine, like something's missing?
Yeah. What is your go-to prayer, Tom?
Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you too, man, anytime a thought comes into your mind that isn't pure, go to hell, Satan. Speak in your head. I do it all day long. He's always trying to throw stuff up and see what'll stick to the wall. Just memorare. I've seen so many things from a memorare results. You know, Mother Teresa's story about praying the memorare. Pray it 8 times. And then when you get it answered, pray another 8 times or 9 times to give thanks. There's just, in praying to saints, I am now praying for a number of saints. They're not saints yet, they're venerable or blessed. And then I'm asking for their intercession. In particular, we have one here in Michigan, Bishop Venerable Frederick Barriga. He was the first bishop of the Marquette Diocese in 1853, which is our northern Upper Peninsula. And that's in the point when you walked, rode horseback, or they called him the snowshoe priest. And just to go from Detroit to Grand Rapids, which was then Grand River, to build a church, he had 2 common labors to build the first Catholic church in Grand Rapids, which was Grand River at the time, and a horse with the tools on it. It took him 2 weeks. Now I'm thinking to myself, they must have just drank out of streams or the lake. What did they eat? Did they take beef jerky? Did they shoot animals along the way? And they just slept outside, whether it rained, it snowed, the mosquitoes. Like, man, I'm not doing anything. And he just would go on. He learned the Ottawa language, was the first one he learned. He wrote Indian prayer journals. He went in and catechized and baptized them. And you read about all of these people, and they just never stopped. They just got up and went to work every day. And like Mother Teresa, her prayer life was very dry. We're not always going to get, love and attention from God. We're going to have dry periods, but just stay faithful. He's going to use all of that. And I'm just a grocery guy. What am I doing going to Africa or Papua New Guinea? You kidding me? So if you're listening right now, you have no idea what God has in store for you. Just talk to him. Just start to develop a relationship with him. I talk to him all day long. And your guardian angel. I'm telling you guys, if you don't start talking to your guardian angel, you need assistance in a job, you'll get it. I'm putting my dock in. We live on the bay. I'm very blessed. And it's rough, and I can't get that last bolt in. And I ask for his assistant, boom, it's right in.
Amazing.
I've been saved from things, Dominic, the stories. The more you believe, the more you'll see. And trust.
Thanks for joining us. If this story connected with you, send it to someone. And if you want to chat with us about anything that we've said, send us a message at heroicmen.org/stories. Our partner at CatholicSpeakers.com has built the easiest way to book powerful Catholic speakers for your men's event. They are the #1 resource worldwide for event organizers and Catholic speakers. Book easily, confidently, and ask for several grants to support ministry to men. visit heroicmen.org/speakers today. Come and share your journey in the Heroic Brotherhood, our online community for Catholic men like you. Get the app with the best Catholic media for men, including Heroic Men's original series, Be a Man. It's all free because an alliance of donors already paid it forward for you. Stand with us. Let's build the future of Catholic men. Will you pay it forward? $5 a month pays it forward for 5 men. Visit Heroic Men to stand with us. Because men like us, we leave no man behind. Visit heroicmen.org today.